Hi, I'm Robert Gurr. Welcome to my stream tonight. My son Stephen is having technical difficulties and may or may not join us. So I am waiting for him to come. His router overheated, and we're waiting for it to cool down to see if he can be here tonight. But if he's not able to make it, hey, it's going to be worth it. You're going to see some amazing things. We're going to go over the Codex Boturini tonight, which matches the history of the Book of Mormon, and I'm going to show that in a few minutes. But to tell you a little bit about myself, I'm married. I have 4 children, and they're all grown. So I've been able to do a lot of research. I have trouble sleeping at night. I have what's called fibromyalgia, and fibromyalgia causes me to basically not sleep at night. So I have a lot of time to research. I have a lot of time to look up these things and learn and grow, and I enjoy doing that. So I wanted to share. I've been doing this for about 20 years now. I wanted to share what I've learned in those 20 years and share with you my testimony that, the Book of Mormon is true, and that Joseph Smith was a prophet. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is the true gospel on the earth. And there's a lot of evidence to show that. There's so much evidence to show that. And so here we have Stephen. He is finally able to join us.
Hey,
so, hey,
I'm here.
Welcome, Stephen. Okay.
Hello. I'm here.
Telling them about your technical difficulties. So
yes, internet was just down, completely down. So if I disappear suddenly, that's what happened. But I will hope that the equipment works. So.
Hope that the equipment works.
Pray.
So my son Stephen works. He does a lot of streaming, and he streams his games on Twitch. So if you want to tell everybody a little bit about that.
Well, it's just I love video games a lot, so why not share them with the world and share the good times that I have. I'm always able to bring everyone a smile, and I make sure I have a good environment, and I have a community on both Discord and on Twitter now. Being able to give people a good experience and tell them life's all right. We're going to be fine. And just enjoy the entertainment as well. There's good games out there, and I love to play them.
All right, thank you. Hey, so let's dive right into this. This is something you can find on the internet. It's all
right.
This is on Wikipedia. So
cool.
When we look at Wikipedia and we look at Codex Boturini, what is Codex Boturini, Stephen?
The Tierra de la Peregrinación de los Mexica. The tale of the Mexican migration. An Aztec codex which depicts the migration of the Azteca, later Mexica, people from Aztlan. Its date of manufacture is unknown, but likely to have occurred before or just after the conquest of the Aztec Empire in early 1500s. At least 2 other Aztec codices have been influenced by the content and style of the Boturini Codex. This codex has become an insignia of Mexicans' history and pilgrimage, and is carved into a stone wall at the entrance of the National Museum of Anthropology and History in Mexico City. Oh, right. So well, that's cool.
It is. So this is legitimate. This is not something that this is just some fly-by-night thing. And here is, as we see, the first page of Codex Boturini.
It's on paper. This is a papyrus.
It's a type of a papyrus, a type of paper that they used, and it was manufactured before the Spanish conquest down there.
Mm-hmm.
And and so they wrote their history in picture format. And so what they would do is they take these picture books, and then the elders would translate this or tell the stories of what these pictures represented. And so we have those stories today in written format because they were recorded by the Spanish historians like Diego Duran and Isidro Xochitl and Jose de Acosta and some of these others who these early Spanish historians, they would listen to the stories told by the elders of the natives, whose job it was to interpret and tell the stories of their histories. And so, as we look at this, there's a number of things that kind of just pop out right away as to matching the history of the Book of Mormon. If you look at the history of the Mexica migration, this is their real history. Okay, this is their history. It's not. I'm not making this up. And so this matches the Book of Mormon and their travels. So, what is one of the first thing that kind of jumps out at you here, Stephen?
Well, the first thing that jumps out at me is that there's a moat around this big old island, and they're on a boat.
It is a boat. Yes. So the Mexicas came by ship. They landed in their new world by ship. They were kicked out of what's called Aztlan. So this island here, as you call it, is the country where they originated. It's the country of Aztlan.
And another thing that stands out to me afterwards is the ones on the boat are dark-skinned, and then the ones there are light-skinned.
That's right. Yes. So we see that where they came from white-skinned people. And that's what's interesting, is because the very word Aztec means people of whiteness or white people. They left from white people. And Diego Duran describes their ancestors as being called the Aztecs. So when we think of the Aztecs, we think of, modern day Aztecs. That's actually kind of a misnomer, because they didn't become the Aztecs. If we go back here just real quick, it says that the migration of the Azteca, later Mexica. Okay. Now this is important because they came from the Aztecs. The Aztecs were white people, their ancestors, where they left from.
So they were describing themselves in their history and their naming.
They were describing their ancestors as white people. And the very word, the Nahuatl word for white, is Iztec. So you get Iztec, Aztec. You get white people. That's exactly what it means. And we see that, yes, they are different colored skins. As for the ship, Isidro Xochitl says that they sailed from the west. They sailed from the west, because now this isn't a very strong point, because there are other codexes that show them going the opposite direction. But at least this one here,
the fact that they sailed, it doesn't matter which direction they sailed.
They're sailing, but they're also sailing that way, right? They're sailing to the east. So one of the things that they did is, when they were leaving Aztlan, they were commanded by their god to follow the sun. So they followed the sun, and so they traveled from west. I'm sorry, they traveled from the east. No,
they traveled
getting
from
my
the
directions
west.
mixed up. They traveled from the west to the east. They came from the west. They followed the sun to the east. Now, what he says they didn't come straight across the ocean. He said they followed the coastlines,
which would make sense, because you need to resupply and stock up.
Yeah, why travel straight across the ocean when you could follow the coastlines, around the continent of India and Asia, up through by Russia and the Bering Strait, down Alaska.
Well, even when the Spaniards were exploring and all the English were going around to India, they followed the coastlines. It wasn't like, let's go into the open water. That was not something people did.
Yeah. So, we think, well, in the Book of Mormon, they came straight across the ocean. Well, that's not likely back then. They probably followed the coastline, the same as what the Mexica migration did. The Mexica migration says they followed the coastlines. That's probably what the Nephites did too, right? Yeah, I would guess. Makes sense to me.
Makes sense. Because if you didn't, you got some wild things that could happen on the high seas.
That's right. Yeah, you're going to run into storms that you're probably not going to escape out of very easily. Being by the seashores, you can actually find a little cove or something to hide in until it's over.
Because only until recently do we have any sort of technology to cross the high seas reliably.
Right.
Because
only within the last few hundred years, right?
Yes. And even in the time period when they're crossing the oceans to find the New World, they were expeditions that people did not expect people to come back from. This was a do or die.
Exactly. All right. Count how many houses there are right here.
How many houses, including the temple?
Including the temple.
7.
There's 7. Mm-hmm. That's one of the other things that they mention in the Tales of the Mexican Migration. There are 7 tribes, 7 kings that came over, the 7 kings of the Toltecs, and they came over from Aztlan. And then if you see this one primary one right here, I don't actually know what this represents. If anybody out there might know what this represents, please let us know. But as far as we know, this is just like a symbol of the house of the Toltecs. So there was a primary king, the Toltec king, and it was his primary house, but there were 6 others.
Yeah.
So how many?
Interesting.
In the Book of Mormon, how many tribes are there in the Book of Mormon?
There's 7.
There's 7. Can you name them?
Nephites, Lamanites, Lemuelites, Ishmaelites, and the other
Jacobites,
Josephites. That's right, because Jacob and Joseph, the daughters
and
sons of
the Zoramites,
and the Zoramites. Okay,
and
right.
The Zoramites. So Zoram followed them.
Right.
He was he was with Laban, but he followed them.
He's like, out. Okay, yeah, I'll come with you.
Yeah, don't kill me. I'll come with you. So Zoram was, that makes 7 tribes, 7 kings in the Book of Mormon, and here we have a direct parallel of the 7 kings who left Aztlan to come to the Promised Land.
Is that also correlated in the other codices?
Yes.
Having 7 different, tribes or kings. Okay, so
yes, I don't have the I don't have the picture up, but there's the 7 caves of. They talk about the 7 caves. The 7 kings. 7 is like a very big number within the
origins
of the Mexica people.
Okay.
So 7 tribes. And we see that here. We see that this is where they came from, is Aztlan. So we have a direct link here because, in fact, let me get my book, and I'm going to read this. So this is my book from Diego Duran, right?
Yeah.
And he says in here, the very first page of his book, the very first that he writes. He says, thus we can almost positively affirm that they are Jews and Hebrews. He says, I would not commit a great error if I were to state this as fact, considering their way of life, their ceremonies, their rites and superstitions, their omens and hypocrisies, so akin to and characteristic of those of the Jews. In no way do they seem to differ. He also says the Holy Scriptures bear witness to this, and from them we draw proofs and reasons for holding this opinion to be true. So Diego Duran believed that Aztlan, or their originating point, was from the Jews, from Jerusalem at one point in time. Now, he doesn't...
because of all the things that he says they were Christianized.
He does. He says they were Christianized. So we'll get to that, wow. But before that,
sorry, I'm jumping ahead.
You're jumping ahead. So before that, though, they followed Diego in his same book. He says that they followed their priest, whose name was Meshi, or Meci, Meshi. That could be a reference to the Messiah. In Hebrew, he was called the Mashiach. And if it was the Mashiach who was leading them out,
It's pretty close, effectively with the influences of the consonants there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we see that, there's a lot of parallels here. And they were kicked out of Aztlan, and they were heading towards their promised land that their God had promised them. And it was a land filled with gold and silver and precious feathers and many mantles. I'm not quoting it exactly, but but they do describe this promised land that they were looking for, and they followed their priest Meshi to the promised land, and they had to sail to get there. Scholars today place Aztlan in southwestern United States. There's nowhere in the southwest United States that you have to sail to Mexico. I mean,
which we covered
scholars
in our
today
previous episode.
Yeah,
There's no way they could have come from the southwest United States. It's pretty barren
No.
there, and there's no need to sail from there.
There's no need to sail from there. You can walk from southwestern United States down into Mexico.
They do it all the time here.
Yeah. So one of the things that we see here is this right here. This is it's a square, and it's got this one little dot here, and then it's got this symbol here. This is actually a calendar date. Now their calendar. So this is called one because it's got one dot, and this symbol here is the flint knife, or it's called tekpotl. So one tekpotl is one flint, or one tekpotl, one flint, or it means sacrifice. So the flint knife is represented
Day of sacrifice.
as sacrifice. Okay.
Day of
so this is the
or
date.
year of sacrifice.
This is the date that they essentially arrived here. They don't know what date they left. And
but they
I'm
labeled
going
that day. That was the
Yes.
day that they're starting.
the year. That was the year.
Year.
They labeled that as the year.
Okay.
They don't have a specific date, as in the day they arrived. But some year.
It's just
Now,
we'll call it this. All right. Sounds good to me.
Yep. So let's kind of move along here, and we can see. So this is the same picture. The other one was just kind of. I think it had a little better contrast, but we see that they have this date here. But then look down here. So this is like a mountain. This is their symbol for a mountain, or a temple, and it would basically be like the mountain of the Lord, or something along those lines. Do you see this little icon right down here?
It's got a bird head with a man's head out of it, and he's covered in some sort of like reeds around him.
These are reeds, yes. And you can also see these like little things, like they're almost like breaths, as you would see breaths. So what's happening here is that something like that. We see that this is a idol of Huitzilopochtli.
With the Huitzel bird. Last episode we were talking about the Huitzel bird is like a very holy bird.
Yes.
And their god Huitzel, the Huitzel god, was speaking to them.
Is the reborn god, because the Huitzel hummingbird would die in the wintertime. Not die, he would hibernate in the wintertime, he would look dead. And then in the springtime he would be reborn, right?
Yes.
So we have the reborn god here, who gave them what the Spanish called an idol. But this was more than just, they didn't know what it was. I mean, that's how they would, how they would describe.
That was how they would describe it, yeah.
Something that they didn't understand back then. But this was like a compass.
Yeah.
This.
Because the reeds are like in a direction. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure that has much to do. Like I say,
or
something
contained the idol.
There you go.
Contained their god.
It contained the idol. So what they did was they actually placed the idol, or placed the object, in a ark-like container that they could carry. Like we think of the Ark of the Covenant. So they took this idol and they placed it in an ark, and then they would carry the ark wherever they went. And this idol would tell them where to go. It would tell them, go this way, but it would also teach them things. It wasn't just a compass. It would actually teach them, and it would give them instructions. It would give them doctrine, things that they needed to follow, wise teachings to follow. And so they carried this ark with the object inside, and whenever they stopped, they would build a temple, and they would place this object on their altars of their temples.
Yeah,
and it would
I'm
teach
seeing
them.
it right there on the symbology right here with the being on the mountain in a holy place, and it's surrounded. It looks,
Yes.
it's like it's on a sturdy platform too. It's something that has been fashioned out of some sort of cave. It looks like, because it's got the surrounding around it, and they placed the ark with their god, their idol, inside that place, and it gave to them the words that they had to follow.
That's right. So we see that this compass was more than just, this object was more than just an idol. It taught them things, and of course, through the corruption, we kind of lose some of the through the apostasy, we lose some of the significance of this. But so let's go to the next page, and we see. So the object is now leading them, and so they get to the new world. They get to the promised land,
Mm-hmm.
and remember, there were 7 of them, right?
Hold up, there's 8 there.
There's 8 there.
I mean, details down below is blocking it, but that's an 8. That's a number 8 there.
Yeah, let's see if I can. There we go.
There you go.
But so there's 8 now. Wait, where did the 8th guy come from?
They were already here.
They were already here. They were already in the promised land. Now, if we remember, there were 2 groups that left from Jerusalem. There was the Nephites, who they sailed from the west to the east, but Isho-Shochito says there was another group that they sailed from the east to the west, and they landed there. And if we think about this, the Mulekites came, they left around the same time of the destruction of Jerusalem back in 600 BC.
Mm-hmm.
And they landed in the Jaredite place of desolation, and they said, no, this isn't going to work for you. Everybody's dead, and so we're going to go south. And so what they did is they set up their civilization in the city of Zarahemla. They set that up at that time. The Nephites set up their land down in the land of Nephi, but it was King, who was it now? Not King Benjamin, it was King before him. My mind's going blank here. King Mosiah, right?
King Mosiah, yes.
King Mosiah. He said, God told him to say, take these people who are faithful, because everybody's getting wicked. He says, go and leave them. And so they left, and they found the 8th tribe. They found the people of Zarahemla, who were pretty well established. And then they set King Mosiah over the city of Zarahemla. So we have here a depiction of, well, now there's 8 tribes, because that's history here. This is what happened. Now we notice that each tribe has like this symbol, right?
Yes.
They each have a special symbol. But look right here. Can you see this right here?
One is the tribe of priests, apparently, because they are carrying the god.
They're carrying the god. They're carrying the idol. They're carrying the object of Huitzilopochtli, the compass that's teaching them. And so if we look, these guys, so one of the symbols of, we think, the snake in our modern day society is bad. The snake is like, he represents Lucifer in the Garden of Eden. They didn't have that problem. They viewed the snake as being a sign of wisdom. In fact, that's what it actually means, is a wisdom symbol.
Be wise as serpents.
The wise as a snake. Yes. Wise as serpents, and because this comes from the Bible. It says, be wise as serpents, and as soft as doves, something like that. I didn't quote that right, I know, but I slaughtered that. But it says, be wise as serpents. So
Yes.
the snake was a symbol of wisdom, and they carried the ark. They carried the idol of Huitzilopochtli, who was teaching them. So,
It's also interesting that they're carrying things, each of them individually, and they set apart 4 main tribes here.
yeah, and I think this might be where they left the tribes. You have Nephi, Jacob, Joseph, and Zoram. Zoram followed. He was faithful to to Nephi. So you have 4 people who are leaving. I don't know that that's exactly what it's saying here, but it's possible. It's possible that it's saying that that's where these 4 are leaving.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the numbers and symbolisms here.
Yep. All right. So here we have right here. What do we have here?
It's a temple to their god.
To their god. It's probably an altar that they placed their god on, and he's teaching them again. And so what we see here, I'd make you count these, but due to time. So there are 12 branches up here, and there are 8 roots down here. What could that possibly mean?
How
many tribes of Israel were there?
There were 12. They were cut off.
Yep.
From them, I would suppose.
Yes.
Because, I mean, it is a tree and it has been cut. So I don't know what the hands are reaching down towards the roots for, but they are cut off from the rest of everyone else. And they placed their god in that temple. So
and so there are 8 roots of the tree now. Yeah, it is interesting.
Wait. Hold up. There were 8 tribes that made it here, that existed here, and they are now the roots of a new tree that has been cut off from others.
Very well done. Yes.
That's got to be the only way I can actually logically consult my mind's logic for that, and it makes complete sense.
Yes, it does. And so we also have in the Book of Mormon, we have Jacob chapter 5, which is the parable of the olive trees, and putting all of the different trees in different parts of the earth, and how they grow wild, and we have a very direct parallel to that that parable. This is something that Joseph Smith just could not have guessed. But we see that the 12 tribes were cut down, and we see that the new roots have been taken place. They've been grafted into the new land, the promised land here. So, all right. So let's see. This right here, it's just basically they're eating, they're teaching. Here again, we have this is 6 tribes, and Huitzilopochtli, or the object, is teaching them, and they're talking to it. So it's not just something that, it's not just something that the idol just taught and talked alone. They could talk to it. They could teach. They could talk to it, and it would speak back.
Well, they're bent over, so obviously, I think that looks like a pretty fair definition of prayer.
Mm-hmm.
They're speaking to their God, and their God is speaking to them.
Now, one of the things too is scholars today say that these guys, they were warlike people. Do these guys look like they're warriors?
No, I don't see any weapons on them.
No, these guys are not they're not warriors. They're not. Huitzilopochtli was not the war god. He's not telling them to go and conquer new lands. He's telling them, he's teaching them peaceful things, peaceful doctrines.
Mm-hmm.
Right. All right. So here up above, we have 8 houses again. I don't know what that is, but do you remember that symbol that was on that temple? at the very
Yeah,
beginning.
yeah.
Here it is again. So we see this.
Hmm.
This might,
It's reversed, but
it's
yeah, that is
reversed.
the same.
It's
I
that same
think that's got to
symbol.
be like the High King or the leader of their peoples.
It could be Lehi. So this could be Lehi. And because Nephi was basically his um, successor, that probably, they probably showed him together, and then they separated him out later. But so I think this is Lehi. I think that's his symbol. So also what we're doing is if you follow the footsteps, see, we can see the footsteps as we're traveling, right?
Yeah.
And we're going from folio to folio as we go along. So here we see the footsteps. Now, what we see here is over here we have that same symbol, and we have dead people. So their leaders are dying either on their travels or wherever they're going. They die, and we see the death of Lehi, the death of possibly Ishmael, the death of some of these other people that didn't make it to the New World.
Mm-hmm.
And also we have here, this looks like a bow and arrow.
Yeah, yeah, it does. And
Is this
well, okay, and he's
now?
speaking. I wonder
Mm-hmm,
what the directions are from, his bow. I wonder what that symbol is on the bottom. There's obviously some sort of bird carrying what looks like a part of that symbol from, we were talking about Lehi, potentially
uh-huh.
Lehi, being brought to him,
I think so.
because it's a part of that symbol.
Yes. Yeah, that's a very good point. So, and right here we have, I'm sorry, right here we have Huitzilopochtli again. We have
Mm-hmm.
the object, the Liahona that's guiding them and leading them. We have the serpent symbol of be wise as serpents and gentle as doves. I think that's the way it goes. Um, so, we see a lot of symbolism here that events that may or may not. I mean, I think there's still pretty strong correlation. I think that we're still seeing a lot of the history of the Book of Mormon here. So, okay, moving along. Now, again, so these are mountains, right?
Yes.
And I have no idea what this guy is. If anybody out there knows what this guy is and doing, he might be an angel. I,
Uh, yeah, I don't know if
no
those are the
clue.
spoken words from him.
This here, though, again, the snake meant wisdom. So here, wisdom is coming out of the mountain. And, if we think about it too, we actually don't have a lot of the Book of Mormon. We don't know.
Yeah.
This may be some event that happened in the Book of Mormon that we don't know about, because the original Book of Mormon was the plates of Lehi, or the Lehi's record. We
Mm-hmm.
lost the 116 pages, so we don't know from the 116 pages what they contained and how much different there were.
Or how
What we
much
do know,
history that was, compiled that just couldn't be compressed.
yeah. So we know that the 116 pages were more history, and we know that Nephi, he liked the book of Isaiah, so he copied a lot of the books of Isaiah. Um, so we have more of religious history from Nephi, but his father Lehi, the book of Lehi, would have been more their travels, and so this is possible. This is some event that occurs that we don't know about. This is possibly this could be Quetzalcoatl, the
Mm-hmm.
snake, coming out, being resurrected, and teaching them on the mount. Again, I'm not
Wisdom coming
100%.
from the mountain. Yeah.
I'm not 100% confident, but Jesus did come and he landed on the temple. He came to the temple. Now, if these symbols, they represent either mountains or temples because they're holy places. So we have this symbol of the serpent coming out, and if that's Quetzalcoatl, or if that's Jesus coming to visit them and teaching them, that could be a very strong symbol of that. Now here we haven't seen any dates up until now. So what we have here then is, if you remember, we had one Tecpotl, and then down here in the corner we have a 2 dots, and we have a house. Now that's called Kali. Kali is house or temple, right? So we have 2 Kali, we have one Tecpotl, 2 Kali, 3 rabbit. And I'm going to have to real quickly go to Aztec calendar, because I don't remember what the Nahuatl name for rabbit is. Rabbit is Tochli.
Tochli.
Yeah, Tochli. So we have Tecpotl, which is the flint knife, right?
Yes.
We have Tochli, which is the rabbit, and then we have the reed, which is a cottle. A cottle is reed. So we have those 3. Now, each one of those symbols is it means something. So flint knife is sacrifice.
Yes.
The Kali is temple, meaning holy, or a holy place. The rabbit means life, because rabbits abundantly produce, right? So
yes,
rabbits mean life.
Okay.
And the reed, this is a cottle. So we have 2 Kali, 3 rabbit, 4 reed, and 4 a cottle. And a cottle means justice. Okay. So this is how their calendar goes. So we don't have any calendar dates up until now. This is the first calendar date. So it goes 2 Kali, 3 rabbit, 4 reed, 5 Tecpotl or flint knife, 6 Kali, 7 rabbit, and you go all the way up to 13. And so we get 13 flint or 13 Tecpotl, and then it starts all over. So we have 1 Kali, goes to the next ones. We have 2 Kali here, we have 1 Kali here.
Okay.
And 2 Kali, we have the 2 rabbit, 3 reed, and all the way up to 13 Kali. And then we go to the next one, which is 1 rabbit.
And then okay.
All right. So that's how their calendar goes. Now their calendar, the Aztec calendar, is based on this type of system. This is how it works. So when we look at the calendar, all of these have some sort of reference to Jesus Christ. We have the sacrifice. We have the flint knife, the sacrifice. We have the rabbit, which is life. We have the reed, which is justice. We have the temple, which he came to the temple. So all of these have some significance towards Jesus Christ. Now there's 52 of these. So if you start with 1 Tecpotl, 2 Kali, 3 rabbit, and you go through these, it will take you 52 years to get back to 1 Tecpotl. All right. If you start with 1 rabbit, it will take you 52 years to get back to 1 rabbit, because there's 13 times 4. 13 dots times 4 symbols, 52 years. So this is a 52-year calendar. Now this calendar is based on the planet Venus.
All right.
If you look at the planet Venus in the sky, it goes around, it's called the evening and the morning star. So in part of the year, it'll rise in the morning, and in part of the year, it'll rise in the evening. So it's called the evening and the morning star. But the thing is that in the point that star, the point of Venus, it actually moves around in the sky. And every 104 years, it will come back to that same point in the sky. So we have 52 times 2 is 104 years. Are you following?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Every 104 years, it makes a perfectly a perfect 5-pointed pentagram in the sky. All right. So we think of the pentagram and that's
No,
Satan, right?
no.
That's a cult.
That's
No,
that's
that's Jesus Christ. Jesus
that's
Christ
Jesus
is
Christ.
known as the bright morning star in Revelation 22:16. He is known as Venus to
Yes.
the Aztecs. We have a very direct link between Jesus Christ and Quetzalcoatl, or Jesus Christ in the Mesoamerican area, because of the calendar.
So
Calendar.
hold up.
Okay.
The calendar was based on Venus,
Yes.
and Venus makes that symbol.
Venus makes that symbol every 104
And
years.
that symbol was also first attributed to Jesus Christ. I know from Mesopotamian history that I took earlier in my life. So that's just crazy to me that
Yeah,
their
we
whole
have
calendar is made up to follow the star, and it works.
it works. Yes.
And because they were a religious people, it was Christian.
Mm-hmm. It represented Jesus Christ in his sacrifice, his life, his temple, and his justice. That's what it represents. Very
His
cool,
justice
huh?
or his
It's like,
laws. Yeah.
okay, this
Oh
is
my
mind blowing.
goodness.
This is mind blowing.
Where's the mind blowing banner here? Mind blown, mind explosion now. Because if you didn't believe anything up to this point, math, the universal language, has just shown it to us.
That is
Math
correct.
says this is true. So if you don't
That is
believe
correct.
math, oh, I don't know what's going to tell you, what you're going to have to believe.
So yes, very cool. We have their entire calendar proves that Jesus Christ came and visited them.
Wow.
So I don't know what stronger evidence there is. I mean, we're seeing parallel after parallel here. So all right, let's go to the next one. Now, so this is kind of interesting. Sometime around 2 read over here, there was some kind of sacrifice. I'm not sure what sacrifice that was.
Sacrifice of a prophet, maybe, because there was words coming from it.
It's possible. Yeah, if they killed a prophet, that actually could make sense. If they killed a prophet, and
They've used that specifically for words of wisdom. So if they're removing or they are sacrificing someone of wisdom, then that makes sense to me. They're killing a prophet.
mm-hmm, yeah. Well, and it might be a sword, because that's the sword without. Yeah, it might be the flint knife.
I don't know.
So,
Just makes some
but we do see those little
interesting
breath
thoughts.
things.
Yes.
There's these little breath things. This is supposed to teach us something, right? This is
Yes.
we're supposed to learn something here. I don't know what we're supposed to learn yet, but we're supposed to learn something.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, so here we have, here's the Toltecs again. They are not warriors. They are peaceful people. The Toltecs were actually described as those who wore long flowing robes. All right, they are the philosophers, uh, the good men, the priests, the people
Wise
who
people.
wise people. They were
Yeah.
well respected. If you read their histories, Tula was a place where there was no poor, where you didn't have anybody who was poor. You had everybody who was taken care of, and there was no poor among them. It was a wealthy city. Um, so here we have, like, I don't know, a fish. This could represent the area of the Anahuac, which we talked about last time. Is the Nahuac is the area which literally means near the water. It
Yeah.
could be the place of many waters, rivers, and fountains where they had fish and they had reeds and things. I don't know. Again, there's not a whole lot there,
Mm-hmm.
but we do see that we see that this they
calendar
started.
continue.
The calendar. So they started down here in the lower left hand corner, and it would go up and around, and then finally come down here to the other foot where we can see how they. So the years are passing by. And it came to pass, right?
And it came to pass.
And it came to pass. All these years came to pass. Not much is going on. And so, here we have, again, I'm not sure what these are, but we do have more Toltecs. There's the peaceful people. More it came to pass as time goes on. Looks like they're maybe smoking a peace pipe. I don't know, something.
No, there's those breath symbols again, and remember those wisdom, and it's coming from what looks like some sort of horn,
Mm-hmm.
and it is being embraced by or held up from that symbol on the very end. Doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't understand that, but I know that there is a lot of wisdom or a great wisdom flowing forth.
Teaching.
Yeah,
A
there's a lot of
marvelous work is
teaching.
about to come forth. Could be, the teaching of the people.
Yeah,
good point.
And it was large. This is something significant, and it's
Yes.
To have it be included in there. This was a significant moment to the people, and it was of great teaching. Great knowledge was being expounded to the Toltecs.
All right. So here we have more. And again, I don't know a whole lot about all these symbols. I don't know what these mean.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot, in here that just
some sort of pottery on stones. I don't know what the symbol above it means. Nothing to give me any clarity. It's partially filled. It looks like they included a little bit of texture in the bottom of the vessel.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's true, right there.
I don't know what it could be though.
It's so we can see definite parallels in some things, some minor parallels in others, and others we just have no idea. So, all right. So here we get to Here now we have a sacrifice. Somebody was sacrificed. This was somebody who was killed. Okay. And I don't know exactly who that was talking about. But we also see the death mask here.
Mm-hmm.
So something is going on. And we see that they're. So we start to see this. This might be a grasshopper. It might be a bee. Could be like a bee or beehive. Not sure what that is. And then, of course, they have a boat here.
Some people sailing away.
Here we have another temple mountain. And this looks like it could be a Quetzal bird or the Quetzalcoatl, which is the feathered serpent. That could be the feathered serpent coming out of there.
Mm-hmm. More wisdom from the mountain.
Yep.
Or more wisdom from the temple. Don't know what those other symbols are. More passage of time. The serpent.
More passage of time. Serpent. Yep.
And then what are those? I don't know what those are. Hold up. It looks like almost like a shield or some sort of rolling device.
Yeah.
That had wheels.
Could be a shield. Could be.
There's a whole bunch of dots, right? And they number their things with dots.
Yes.
And they circled them. So I wonder if number of dots in that thing that it looks like a shield, and they traveled to.
It might also just be like the ground.
It could be
ground.
I don't know. I guess, but the symbolism doesn't have any comparisons unlike it, so it's hard to say. But the thing is, it's got the foot, right? It's got the foot, and so they're traveling.
Yeah, so it's going from here to here. Yeah, they could be, they could be migrating and going around. We don't know. And then, of course, we have a serpent here, uh, but it's not like teaching them anything. Not quite sure what's going on
It's
there.
just present. It's a serpent year, or there was a festival of the serpent things, because it is a year of justice. It is a year with 13 read, right?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
That is 13 read.
So
Yes.
13 read, you would have something to do with the serpent there. So it was a wise year, or there was a celebration of wisdom, I suppose.
Yeah. Now I have to kind of clarify. These years are not exact
Oh, of course. Yes.
because we're back to one tech pottle right here. Okay,
Yes.
this is the one tech pottle, one flint knife, and it's only been 52 years. So obviously, excuse me. Obviously, something's going on that took longer than 52 years.
Yeah.
But this is just kind of, I think, their way of saying time passes, and there might have been a certain event that occurred in a certain year that was really important, but they didn't know how many rounds there were, how many 52-year rounds there were, so they just kind of fudged the numbers. I think that kind of happened.
It's possible. Yeah.
The reason why is because they say that one of their kings lived to be 150 years old. Yeah, I'm not thinking that he was able to really live to be 150 years old. So I think their calendar wasn't perfect back then, or at least what we have today
Yeah.
representing their calendar is not perfect. So, all right. So here we get to
What are those? So there's a gathering of many things,
gathering.
and
Yeah.
this
We see
person
this
is
tree
yeah.
growing out of the temple.
Okay.
See
And
more peaceful Toltecs. We see the flint knife coming out of this temple.
sacrifices in the temple.
Could be. This could be the reed in the temple. This could be justice. That justice came to the temple. This could be that sacrifice came to the temple that year.
Wait. When did the reign of the judges come? when did they?
That's actually a good point.
Because when would justice be brought from the temple? They had priest kings, so
Mm-hmm.
judges, for a while. Maybe that's part of their interpretation of the judges in the
Mm-hmm.
Book of
It could
Mormon.
be. Yeah, that's a very good point. I hadn't thought of that before. Okay, here's where we get to. So right here, this was a bad thing. This
There's a
is the
sacrifice.
sacrifice of the temple, and then
Yeah.
this symbol right here is. I'm going to enlarge this. Hang on just a second.
Yeah. It's pretty hard to see. Got to get closer.
Oh. Oop. All right. So what we see here, this is a Mockweedle sword.
Yeah.
Mockweedle sword, and it is covered by a shield. This is war. Okay. This is war.
And there are a number of footsteps around it, so they're totally surrounded.
Yeah.
Surrounded by war.
And what we see here, do you see
enemies.
this little?
I can't really see it. Let me enlarge what I can. Not really. There's some bricks on the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Wait. Is that the Weitzel bird?
It's the Weitzel bird, I think.
Oh,
I think
okay.
that's the Weitzel
And then
bird.
the Weitzel bird, and then the flint knife. The sacrifice.
Yep.
So the priest of sacrifice and the Weitzel bird. So the one who spoke with the high priest who spoke with God, and I don't know what the bricks would represent.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. But what we do know is that war came to them. War was starting to come, and we see that that their God was. So what happened within the Toltecs is the king that I was telling you about that was lived to be 150 years old.
Yeah.
He had an affair, and he produced a son, and this son, this bastard son, basically was declared the heir to his throne. And the people didn't like that. And so they decided, well, they were going to rebel, and they started this war. And, and if you think about it, we actually don't know what caused the original war to break out between the Nephites and the Lamanites. And it very well could have been that event. It could have been that, their king at the time, the Nephite king, could have committed some kind of thing, the action that they didn't approve of, and so they went to war over it. Especially if there's this illegitimate king on the throne.
I mean, how many times have we actually read? And I think it was in Omni, where, I mean, one of the prophets wrote, "I have not been as faithful as I should have."
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, that's part of the history that we just don't have a lot of.
So if this was like their, the Huitzel bird, so their God was leading them back. So guess where they end up? So this is war. All right.
Yeah.
This is the beginning of the war, and they are not yet to Anahuac. They are not there yet, because what we see is they travel to, so I guess we're not quite there. Right down here, we see that bee again, like maybe a beehive. We see this king here, not quite sure what's going on here.
It's not a Huitzel bird speaking to him. There's some sort of other thing going on right there, like he's being swayed, or
it's possibly, and it's not that breath symbol that we see
it's
over
not
here.
That breath symbol. It's
like
not written
maybe
like
somebody speaking evil into his ear, whispering, do bad things into his ear.
The wisdom symbol is specific. It's very particular. This is not the wisdom symbol. This is something to represent lies or and angst and evils. You're right, like evils. It is speaking evils, and it's a person. It is not a Huitzel bird. It is not a wise person. It is someone particular that existed, that was known to those people then, that was declared. He is speaking evil to this king or this judge or this leader.
And he doesn't look like he's a good guy. This does not look like a happy face, No.
Like he's got some sort of scar or marking over his face to represent him and his side. So
that's right.
Leading the enemy.
So what we have here then is they're running away from the war, okay? And guess where they end up? Oh, not quite yet.
Not Anahuac, but they're traveling, and there's some sort of events that are significant to them.
Yep, they're traveling. I don't know
finding
what these trees, are.
Bushes, just different things that they know.
But they end up. Whoa! What is that?
Now hold on. We were talking about this last time. Anahuac with the river coming from the mountain.
That's right. Grasshopper Hill. They end up at Grasshopper Hill. So they're running away from the war, right? They're booking it out of Dodge, wherever they're being destroyed at.
Yeah, and it's taking them some time to actually retreat, to leave.
That's right. So they're coming, and they end up at Grasshopper Hill, which is Hilchapultepec in the Valley of Mexico. And we see that it's fruitful bough or something here is, this is a good thing. We see the peaceful Toltecs. They're peaceful. They are not warriors. They are not trying to fight. But we see that they ran from wherever their original war was. I'm going to go back here. So their original war, they start these battles, and they're running away now. And they end up.
Takes them quite a bit of time. That's a number of
years. Yeah. So the war had been going on for a while. I mean, you can tell from what's going on here. There's a number of years that the war started occurring, and it'd been going on for a few years. And they finally made their way to Hilchapultepec, and their god. So what's interesting? Oh, yes. Go ahead.
No, I'm just considering all the things we talked about in last episode. It's kind of being again, verified in Codex Boturini here. And it looks
Mhm.
exactly like we're expecting it to. Like
Yes.
what the Book of Mormon explains things out as.
Yes.
Ah, can I do
Mind blown again?
yeah, yeah. And I mean, like, this is kind of the second time I've gone through it with you, but oh my goodness, that's amazing. I can't.
So the Nephites they ran to Hill Cumorah, and the Hill Cumorah was right in the middle of many waters, rivers, and fountains. Hill Chapultepec. If we pull up, let's pull that up again just real quick.
Which, if we remember from last episode, everybody, and what it showed there is there was water flowing from it. It had a natural spring. That
Yes.
is clear as
So
day.
here is Chapultepec, right here. It is right next to a huge lake, Lake Texcoco, a land of many waters, rivers, and fountains. The Anahuac represents the people who live by the water. This is Anahuac,
Yes.
and it's right smack in the Valley of Mexico. Now, this lake today has been drained. This no longer exists. A city of 12 million people live here now because this lake is gone. But back in the 1500s, back in the circa when 1519, when the Spanish arrived, this is what the Valley of Mexico looked like. There was this huge lake here. So we see, going back to Codex Boturini, we see Chapultepec right here. This is their hill. And their God commanded them to gather here and to defend this hill. Told them to build up walls and defend this hill. And they did that. And they put all of their women and their children and elders on top of the hill. And they tried to defend it. However, after many years, the enemy came. And here here's Chapultepec. Here we have the symbol of the it's not going to blow up very big, but we have the symbol of the grasshopper on the hill. We have the war.
Yes, and they are encircled about.
Yep, they're encircled about, but look what happened. This branch got cut off. Remember in the previous... oh no, here we go. So in the previous...
it looks like a root.
Yeah.
Wait. Way back, you had the tree that had been cut off. Like they cut a tree, and they had the 12 tribes, and they were making new roots. So now the root has been cut off from their god.
So they lost the war. They lost the battle. There was this sacrifice.
Killed the prophets. Okay.
And then we have really sad Toltecs. They're sad because
they're not in robes anymore. They're in
their robes are dirty and stained, and so they lost the war. So we have some sad Toltecs because they were destroyed as a people. The Toltecs have disappeared from history.
Yes.
This is their battle. This is how they were destroyed. This is where they disappeared from. So we have this.
Wow. All right.
And we see that they weren't necessarily just like all destroyed, but they were taken captive. They were enslaved. Here's the bird, and he's no longer teaching anybody. But they bring him before the king, and I don't know, maybe they cook him over here or something. I don't know what they do, but we see that they lost the war, and so we see that the warrior people. The warrior people came in and killed off the peaceful people. The peaceful people, these guys are peaceful. They're not warriors. Toltecs were not warriors.
Or not warlike. Like not
warlike. Yeah.
I'm
sure they became.
Yeah, I'm sure they learned, as we are told in the Book of Mormon, they learned how to defend themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
But the ones that are concerned with war curious that they're wearing loincloths.
Hmm. They're wearing loincloths with swords and shields, and yes, these were the barbarians, the Chichimecas. They're called the Chichimecas, and they were naked. The the Lamanites were naked and wearing loincloths. Of course, these guys are too, but I guess
Yes.
by that
Okay.
time, because they're no longer wearing robes.
Yeah, they're not wearing robes anymore. They've been destroyed. They are not a separate people anymore. They've been enslaved.
So this is the last battle of the Toltecs. This is the last battle, and then we get to the last slide, and what we're seeing here. This is the aftermath of the Book of Mormon. This is the epilogue, and they, we don't know what happened to them in the Book of Mormon after it was taken and buried, but they integrated and they denied the Christ, and they became part of the people to survive, and we have their record. So this is the history of the Mexica migration following Huitzilopochtli, who was their god. Huitzilopochtli was the reborn god.
Yes.
He was Jesus Christ. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
He was Jesus Christ. Just another name for Jesus. They use several names for them. And we have Quetzalcoatl, we have Huitzilopochtli, we have Topiltzin, we have Hoymek, Kukulkan down in the Maya area. We have all these different names, but what they started doing is they started worshiping them separately. So they would worship Quetzalcoatl and Huitzilopochtli. And do you remember what they used to do in their temples when they sacrificed to Huitzilopochtli? Do you remember what they would do?
Oh, I remember you telling me this, yes. So what the Aztecs would do is they would have a sacrament. It was a solemn procession where they would make a figure of a man, their god, out of bread.
Mm-hmm.
And with this, they would break apart parts of their god. Well, hold on, I'm getting ahead of myself. So, and they would dress their god, right? Their god made of bread. This is very important. And as they are performing their ceremony, which is still very solemn, is a very ritualistic thing. It's not barbaric. It's not, barbarianism and just bloodshed for the sake of bloodshed, because they're, what people believed to be barbaric. But they would bring their sacrifice, not a slave, but a man that was considered of great heart, or he had great spirit in him. And they would sacrifice him and remove his heart, because that's what they would offer their god. And they would take the blood of that person and cast it over their god of bread, right?
They take the blood. They cast all the blood,
and they would put it on
the bread god.
On the bread god. Hold up, this is getting really, really similar to something in the past that we know of before it was corrupted. So after taking the bread that has been stained with the blood on their god from someone who had a good heart, or a good person that they just sacrificed, they would then break apart that bread and offer it to all of the people that were there as partaking in that ceremony.
And they would partake of the bread and blood, the flesh and blood of their god.
Flesh and blood of their god. It is too literally, the sacrament.
It is literally the sacrament. They had been Christianized, and the Spanish historians had recognized that. Diego Duran says, says that these guys, they understand our Christian beliefs. And
which is also why they were readily willing to accept the gospel too.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them.
That's why they converted to Christianity.
That's why they converted to Christianity, because they're like,
to Catholicism.
They have the words of God.
So
They-
I wanted to kind of quickly show, though. So if you look, this is the temple of down in Chichen Itza, and you see all these pillars here.
Yes.
These actually are very similar to the temples in Egypt, like the Temple of Karnak. What they
Yes.
have, these pillars, at least in the Temple of Karnak in Egypt, these pillars represent trees or a garden room. And as you progressed from the garden room, you would travel and you would eventually end up in this area up here. You would climb the stairs to become as close to the heavens as you possibly could.
Yes.
And up here, you would be with the gods. And so that's what that represented. They had statues of their gods up here. And we see this in other temples as well. Here's another view from the same temple down below, and you would travel up these steps, and you would go and you would be with your gods up here. Here's another temple in Tula Hidalgo, and you can see that all these pillars around, and these pillars they represented the garden room, and you would pass through the garden, and you would go up here, and up at the top there's these gods up here. You can kind of see them better in this picture here, these gods. So
Whoa.
we see that they had similar theology, similar. The history just matches, unbelievably. Joseph Smith
Too many
not
coincidences.
could not have guessed all that. He did not have access to these writings. They were written in Spanish, and they were sent off to Spain.
They were sent off to Spain, and they were held in Spain.
They
were not published. They were not sent out to anybody. This was the Spanish Inquisition just saying, no, we can't have anyone know this.
That's
no one
right.
expects the Spanish Inquisition to stop it.
So there's no way Joseph Smith could have known these things unless he was a prophet. And it's my testimony and my witness, that God is the God of the whole world. He's not just the God of Israel and of the Romans and of the Gentiles. And he promised that he would save the Jews and the children of Abraham. And these people in Mexico, the Mesoamerican natives, the Maya, the Aztec, the Toltecs, they were all descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who was Israel. They were descendants of Israel. They were the tribes of Israel, and they were righteous. They were a righteous people until they were destroyed. And we have that in the Book of Mormon, and it blows my mind. I mean,
that we found it.
Yeah, that we found it.
That we found the historical content.
Yep.
It's corrupted. It's not exactly the Book of Mormon, but there are things in there that align perfectly with the Book of Mormon, and even some things that we just don't have yet. I really wish we could see what those meant, what the symbolism for those other things might have.
I wish we could understand the full record. I'd love to have the full record.
I'd love to see the full record, but that's what we got. That's all that history has allowed us to have so far. And if anyone else has more out there that is held in some sort of archive, share it with us. We'd love to get our hands on some more content from the Book of Mormon's historical context. Yep. So if you're in Spain, go and raid some archives and say, I need to know what happened at this time and who went there and why. Give me their things.
And some of these codexes are no longer even in Spain. Some are in France. Some are, in England. I mean, they've been transferred. So who knows what they're hiding? We have some, but not very many. The Spanish burned most of the records, most of the histories, but this is what has survived. And this is what, like I say, Ixtla Xochitl, Diego Duran, Jose de Acosta, Bernardino de Sahagún, these were all the early Catholic historians that tell us what these picture books represent. And we can, match them up very well with the modern with our Book of Mormon. And I think it's just another witness to me that, the Book of Mormon is true. So if you like this episode, please donate to us. I have the PayPal link down below. We could use your financial support to grow this podcast so that more people can listen to it. And we're having a good time. So thanks, Stephen.
Yeah, thanks.
It's always enjoyable having you on and discussing these things with you,
and
blowing your mind.
Blowing my mind, and also just verifying again and again. There are no accidents.
There are no accidents. Nope. All right. We'll see you next week.
Goodbye.